Hi, welcome back to JSTV. Back again. I've got an Australian fan born in Nottingham, but is an Aussie, and it's Rikki Borbal. Rikki, how are you, man?
Yes, good, thank you. It's great to be on your show. I've been following your show for yeah, I've seen it actually for a few months. It's been really good to see all the new channels popping up in relation to Newcastle, given our global reach is increasing. So it's great to see all these TV shows and YouTube shows, and it's actually a big love of mine. So thank you very much for having me on today.
Anytime, Rikki, anytime. You're welcome to come on anytime, Newcastle's open. You want to come on, you can welcome to come on anytime, yes. So thank you for coming on. And yeah, guys, like, if you like what you watch, make sure you like and subscribe to my podcast. And also, if you'd like to super chat, per chat is open. And if you'd like to become a member, it's 99p. So do consider becoming a member. And yeah, so Rikki, we played Tottenham in Melbourne. And also, we played the All Stars yesterday. You're going to come on to the All Stars later on, but the Tottenham game. I mean, before we talk about that, you just talked to us off there. When Newcastle was announced we were going to come to Australia, how did you feel? Were you buzzed? Were you over the moon?
Yeah, so it was just utter like, what's going on? But first, I saw the date of it, and I was like, are they pulling my leg? I need to check the like, what is it, 1st of April or? Because I just couldn't believe it. And yeah, like I was saying, I moved from England, from Newcastle to Australia in September 22, and like I was saying off air, that I thought the next time I'd see us is only when I come back to Newcastle. And I just thought, this is crazy. I thought to myself, I want the season to end good because I want this kind of little tour in Australia to be a celebration, not a kind of, oh God, we've come and we've been absolutely pummeled for the last 10 games of the season, and it ended up being that we had a decent finish to the season. So it was almost like a victory lap. I saw it as, and yeah, it was just felt surreal and it was brilliant. Yeah, it just came around so fast as well. For myself, it was quite a difficult period because, in a good way, because I've just had the birth of my daughter, my first daughter.
Oh, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so it was a period where I thought, am I actually going to be able to go and see them? Because it was, my daughter was born on May the 17th.
Yeah.
Sorry, May the 10th. May the 17th was the estimated, but we brought it back a bit early. And I thought to myself, am I even going to be able to get to these games? But luckily, my wife gave me the blessing to go. And now that it's all finished, I'm trying to bring up some brownie points. Now that I've been missing for the last few hours, I've only been going later on in the day. I've not been joining the parade for all day. I've been going at like a few hours before kickoff, which has still meant that I've gained the atmosphere that you would almost get in Newcastle. So yeah, plenty to talk about. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. I'm glad you made the game. Congratulations on your new Ben Swell, and you
Thank you.
deserve to be a big dad. And I hope you're a young lad, and I hope it goes well in the future, man. And
Thank you.
no problem. So we'll talk about the Tottenham game. I mean, finished once each, and yes, the atmosphere was fantastic in Melbourne Cricket Ground. I would have loved to have been there. It was too short notice, so I couldn't make it, unfortunately. But I'm off to Japan in July, of course.
Nice.
But I mean, what was the atmosphere like for Newcastle fans being in the Melbourne Cricket Ground? Was there more Newcastle than Tottenham fans?
So apparently the ratio was 20-1. I think it's, if you're talking about pure Newcastle fans and pure Spurs fans, I think it was about 20-1. The noise that was made for, let's say, Local Hero came on, the Blade and Races came on, and oh my God, the stadium just it actually brought me to tears. I've got a few videos that I'm going to upload in the next few days. But yeah, it brought me to tears because I thought, Local Hero being played in Australia, it's still just felt surreal,
Oh man.
And then the Tottenham, what's their anthem? It's
Glory,
when the
glory,
Spurs go
Tottenham
marching in.
in.
Yeah, they did the trumpet, and I should have recorded. I think I did record it, and it was so bad. No offense
Oh
to
man.
the trumpet guy, but I think he must have been nervous in the MCG. Whereas we just played a kind of pre-recorded music that we play, whereas he was live. But the atmosphere was so much bigger for us. But I think there was a lot of Tottenham fans because in Australia, you'll probably know it's near to South Korea, and there's a lot of Heung-min Son fans. So whenever he had the ball, it was almost like when I went to the new camp when Messi got the ball. It was just a massive and lots of cheering. Like he wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't do anything with the ball. even though he's such a brilliant player, he did a few things actually in the game which we can talk about. But overall, just I would say Newcastle fans, in terms of genuine fans, there was so much more. Yeah,
man. I just look like I love to be there myself, but
Mm.
you look at the players, right? I mean, Eddie Howe's picked a squad, right? You know,
Mm.
like maybe a full team squad against Tottenham. Joe Linton
Yeah.
played, Bruno played, and you know, yes, it's like a pre-season feeling. Do you know what I mean? It's like a pre-season feeling. We won on penalties as well. What I did, obviously, I didn't watch it because I was at work. What was the atmosphere like when that winning penalty was scored? And was it like a huge celebration? And the team Dan Burton ran across the pitch and you know celebrated Matt Gillespie as they won the Football World Cup.
That was so funny. I was actually sitting because during the match I kind of walked around the stadium because it wasn't fully sold out. It was 78,000, whereas the MCG can hold apparently 100,000. So there was plenty of seats here and there left. But when I saw Dan Burns sprint across, it was so funny. I was like, what is going on? I thought, is something gone on? Is he going to like save someone? Or but he just ran up to Gillespie and just jumped up to him. Yeah, but the atmosphere in the game, I'd say the start of the game, the atmosphere was great. And then it kind of turned. I spoke to a few people like Lee from the Newcastle Fans TV, and there's a podcast in Australia called the Toon Pod, which is what I'm trying to get more involved with.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned that it did become a bit of an exhibition after a while. It was quite quiet. It's because the MCG is such a huge stadium. It's called a stadium, but actually it's an arena. And typically with arenas, you kind of lose that atmosphere just because it's so big. But either way, whenever something happened, it was amazing. And we were chanting along. The Newcastle fans were amazing, of course. And the pre-match warm-up in a few of the Richmond hotels, which Richmond's one of the suburbs near the MCG, that was noted as like the Newcastle fan zone. It was heaving, man. It was, like I said, it was almost like you're in Newcastle. The chants were going off. Even Lee Lawler from Newcastle Fans TV was like, "This is almost better than Newcastle," and I'm on the other side of the world. Just because we all know the chants. There's a lot of expats, which is what you expect in Australia, including myself. And so, and like, Newcastle is not one of those clubs that's like Man United, where you'll have a lot of tourist fans that don't really know too much about the following of the club, or, they're kind of hard, like they're just not as into it. Whereas if you're supporting Newcastle, you're supporting it for a very good reason. Either your grandparents were born there, you've come from there, or there's some sort of special connection that's made you love Newcastle. And so you can definitely feel it. Anyone that's there is just so passionate. There's no one that's just like, oh, I'm just going to a game. Everyone was just screaming. It was just amazing. Just a real pleasure for it to happen. Yeah.
How much? I mean, just to be nosy, how much did it cost you a ticket for both games? I mean, ticket for the first games, and everyone wants to know the cost of a game against the A Stars.
Yeah. So the Tottenham game was. The Tottenham game was mine cost $70, which is probably roughly about £35. So it's not too bad. But some of the more expensive tickets, you can get some that were like $400, $300. But yeah, the average price I would say was probably about £60-70 for the first game. For the All Stars, it was pretty much the same price. It's pretty much the same price. So yeah, there would have been plenty of disappointed fans, which we can talk about later actually. But in terms of, you asked me earlier about the Tottenham game. It was a good game. I think I kind of expected, I think a lot of people did expect, is that the pace of the game wouldn't be as what you'd expect of the Tottenham game a few months earlier, given the players are jet lagged, they're tired. But Bruno had a good game. He was really good. He was pulling the strings in midfield. Lewis Hall was just Lewis Hall. He's just been great in the last 10, 15 games when he's had the chance of the season. Elliot Anderson played a good game. Isak had a few chances. And then everyone else pretty much had a standard game. Nobody had a bad game. I think Nick Pope, there's one thought actually that I had recently that I spoke about with a few of the Newcastle fans. I don't know if you've seen the goal. He passed it out and it was intercepted by Maddison, and it was a handball. So if that was VAR, maybe we would have got saved if it was back then. It was close actually, because it was close to his side. So I'm not sure. It probably would have been ruled out. You can never tell with VAR these days.
I know.
But if you watch the replay, I was actually going to ask it. I was going to cheekily ask him when he was signing our t-shirts, but I thought it's not very appropriate. But if you see him, he kind of lifts his arm like this, and it just hit his shoulder and went in. And I was thinking, isn't that the shoulder that I think that's the shoulder he dislocated. His right shoulder, because I was meant to search. I was meant to search this up because I'm thinking, given that we're linked with this Georgian keeper, Medadashvili. Yeah, I'm thinking that the reasons for this is because I think he's dislocated it in the past, his right shoulder, and I'm thinking he's still not fully recovered from that right shoulder because he should have. Yeah, because normally he's quite strong with his arms. He normally likes he's got really strong arms, but I think he's still neglecting that right arm. So I think that's partly why we're looking for a new keeper as well. Just given the risk.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I mean, Ipswich just after him as well. So for me, I mean, it'd be sad to see Nitport go if it happens, but that was to material nicest yet. But we're definitely after Dazvili, and I think he'd be a fantastic keeper. I know I spoke to Joe, the Villa fan, the other day. He doesn't rate the guy, but at the end of the day, yeah, it is what it is, man. But if he doesn't look right, then he's still got a couple more months to go to get that put right, Nitport. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it was a poor goal to concede, and yes, it's a defender. It's a very poor goal to concede, but it doesn't really matter. But Isak, his goal was really good. Lovely passing, cross on the right, and Isak was never, ever, ever going to miss that. And we're going to touch on Isak. We're going to come on back to that A-star game about the pricing as well. But Isak, he's been linked to Arsenal, right? And Newcastle wants 200 mil for the guy. He's going nowhere.
No, he's not. He's not going anywhere. I think if he was to move, he'd only move to teams that are definitively at the next level. I mean, Arsenal are definitively at the next level, but I'm meaning like definitively, I think competing, like as in winning trophies. I mean, Arsenal could be a move for him, but in the future, not yet. But I think for him, I feel like he would want a bigger move. I think he's settled at Newcastle. I think we don't want to get rid of him. I can't remember how many years he's got left in his contract because we're negotiating, aren't we, with him?
Yeah, he's got 4 years left on his contract. And the thing is, right, if Isak does score, I hope he doesn't. If he does score, just don't I would like to take, right, as Artem Dubok from Girona in the Spanish league. That guy is absolutely a killer. He's a baller, that guy. 6'3". He's a baller. But Isak's our player. Yeah, he's going to be fantastic. But but Isak's going nowhere. I'm not going to lie to you. But I hope that we keep him because he loves the project in Newcastle. But next season, we've got to win a trophy. We haven't won a trophy, Rikki, for 55, We need, it's all about trophies, elite spots. I'll be happy taking mid-table and win a trophy. Do you know what I mean? I'm happy taking that. But we've got to win a trophy. Do you know what I mean? Top 4, fantastic. We've got to win a trophy.
Yeah, I mean that's partly why I'm supporting City tonight because I think for us, I think the Conference League is slightly below our level. I would say it's below our level for sure, but I think we need a competition that we're favourites because I think given our pedigree is not great because we haven't won for 55 years. You know, you've seen us in the finals. I was listening to I can't remember which podcast. But they were discussing how, like, for us, whenever a big game comes in a cup, we tend to not show up. I mean, that Carabao Cup final, was so disappointing. I mean, again, an amazing spectacle.
We bottled it. I'm sorry, we bottled it. I mean, ASM scored that. We would have a total different game. If you had passed that to Wilson, 1-0 Newcastle. But on the day after that, I think we bottled it on the day. I'm not going to have a go at players. That's not me. But I was disappointed. But I think we bottled it that day. I mean, this is the worst Man United team I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. But you know what? That's for another day. And I've got Alice coming on Monday. She's a big United fan, so I can't wait for that. So, but going back to that Friday game, yesterday game, right? You pay something like 40 quid, whatever it was, right? 35, 40 quid. We looked at the team lineup. Did most of the Aussies expected a strong team? Did they expect this on the 23s to show up? Because if they did, if I was an Australian, I'd be disappointed with that lineup, paying 40 quid to see that kind of lineup. Yeah, I understand that this has been a long season, but Rikki and Dummett and even Jake and Murphy should have played that game yesterday. They should have played that game yesterday to help the young'uns come through. Yesterday, they were thrown under the bus yesterday, in my opinion. Yeah, and not having go to the young'uns.
Yeah.
I should have come good, but I think they done themselves the rough hand there, those players yesterday. Real talk, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I spoke to an Australian fan that had come from Brisbane. He was saying how like months ago, and he came with his family, so he spent like $2,000, so like £1,000. And he said how like months ago he was really excited for it because he only came for this game. And he was really excited because he thought he was going to see all the Newcastle seniors. And then he said as it got closer, and especially post Wednesday, after Tottenham, he kind of accepted that probably he's not going to see half the people he was hoping. Just given that the volume of games that they'd had. So, and I spoke to a few others, and I think Australian fans had the expectation that they wouldn't have the same lineup as the Wednesday game, but I think they expected to see a few senior players. And my personal view is that, like at least, we were thinking, players like Jacob Murphy, definitely Matt Ritchie and Paul Dummett, definitely for sure. That was like almost 100% thought that they were going to start, and then just maybe one or two senior like leaders like that aren't going to get pulled up. Like maybe I think maybe Trippier might have been a close one just because he's got a calf problem, and I've suffered with calf problems, and if you run on it too much, you can get like a tendinopathy in the Achilles. So I thought maybe he wouldn't. I thought people like Dan Burn or who else is in the leadership group? I mean, Longstaff isn't there. Who else is in our leadership group? Did they mention?
Well, Bruno's the leader, but he's also back to the
UK. He's gone.
Because Jordan's getting married, so he could have done
partying.
That.
He's partying in Brazil.
Exactly. I'll be Howard as well. He could have played. Callum Wilson should have played as well. He could have played as well, the leader. You know what I mean? If you see Callum Wilson and that as well, cool, that's fine. But they see the young players, and half those I never even ever heard of, to be fair. They don't even heard of them, but those didn't play it because that squad should be playing against Gateshead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like being there, you could just tell that all these kids are so young and they're just so nervous. They've never ever played for the Newcastle senior team. I mean, I don't think Charlton has. I don't think like 3 or 4 of them had ever played. And then, of course, the big one is Garang Kuol, who has never played for Newcastle before. Number one, he's coming back to Australia. Number two, he's playing for Newcastle for the first time. How nervous are you going to be? Like I shouted his name out when he was doing a warm up, and he responded to me. But you could tell in his eyes that he was so nervous, and like you're just chucking him up front. And this is, I think Eddie Howe might have underplayed how good the A-League All-Stars are. I mean, I'd love to know what his thought is, but because these players they're all, the average age of the A-League All-Stars is like 28, 29 years old. And I don't watch the A-League too often, but I definitely know of a few of the players. And I know that if you look at their background, a lot of them have played in like League One Championship kind of level. And these are senior players. And it's just you're just putting them out there to get absolutely slaughtered. I just kind of felt sorry for them. Like, before the game started, I was excited. I mean, you are excited as a fan. You just think, oh, it's going to be a good game. But as soon as it reached like 3-0, as soon as that goal where there was a cross, and I think it hit Charlton, I think he didn't know it was going to come through to him. It hit him on the chest. And then I think Leckie kind of flicked it through Gillespie and got the second goal. When that went in, I just thought this team's going to get absolutely mauled because there's just no composure to this team. And I'm kind of disappointed because it kind of represented Newcastle slightly to a lot of the fans that came for that game who aren't Newcastle fans or are neutrals. And we just got completely embarrassed. I mean, hopefully it just gets completely ignored about in, thank God it didn't happen in the actual preseason, because that's when people really start talking, because they're thinking, what's this team? Even if it was the youth squad, they'd be thinking, this Newcastle team is not ready for the new season, because the media is not very Newcastle friendly. It's very other top 6 teams friendly, so they like to jump on the bandwagon if they can. Ultimately between us and Newcastle fans, we know that who cares about that game in the end, because there's no one that's probably going to play for. There's maybe Harrison Ashby, Joe White,
Alex Murphy,
maybe Granquil, Alex Murphy. Yeah. Apart from that, there's no one really else. And Alex Murphy had a good game. I'll be honest. He didn't have a good game, but he was reliable. It's hard to say, isn't it? Because when a team is getting absolutely mauled, no one's going to look good on a team.
No, and you know what it is as well, and look good on the CV as well. Number one. Secondly, right, that tells you everything you need to know that they're not going to make it to the first team in future years, and that's a shame because I want these kids to do really well. But at the end of the day, we got to be honest. We got to be absolutely realistic and absolutely, call it out and say how it is, Rikki, because we know if they're good enough and if they're not good enough. And I know Newcastle fans don't want you to have a go-up players. We're not. Let's judge them by the players, not just their personality. We're going to judge them as a player and whether they're going to make it or not. And some of them are not good enough to continue to make it to the first team. Unfortunately, they need to move away and get yourself a different club and get some game time there. Because for me, for what I've seen yesterday, someone ain't going to make it. I'm sorry, they're not. But it's what it is. And it's done now, but I'm going to Japan in July. I hope that we get a strong team out for pre-season. It's got to be a pre-season, and it's got to be a strong team out. Otherwise, it's going to be the same scenario again. But new signs going to come in. We'll see what happens, man. But
but one thing I've got to add as well is apparently it's well known that quite a few of those players that played yesterday aren't getting new contracts.
Yeah,
and that's also what's very confusing is that why play players that aren't going to be at Newcastle?
Fact, Diallo's one of them, right?
Yep.
But he's one of them. He's playing, right? He's off on a fee, right? Yet they're not playing Paul and Matt, right?
Who are going to play?
The first thing, what is the point? To me, if we get Europe, right? I don't want them there. I want to see new faces there. I want to see players out at the end of the season. I want to see about 10, 12 players out at the end of the season. Fee contracts of players are not good enough for me, right? But at the end of the day, before people jump on this, I do understand we won't be able to get rid of all of them, but we've got to try. We've got to try because at the end of the day, we have to tell them they could be stars. At the end of the day, right? I mean, players like Sean Longstaff, Miggy, Murphy as a first team to a degree. You got a few others, Target, you got Henrik, you got Hayden, you got Fraser, Callum Wilson. I hate to say this, I think he needs to be moved as well. We need another striker to back us, and this is why I love to get Artem Dubik as well from Girona. Get this guy in, he'd be brilliant. You know what I mean? But you know what it is? At the end of the day, the season's done. Football's over. What can I say? But if I go back to, I know go another 10 minutes ago before we wrap up the show. I mean, the season just gone. We finished 7th. If we are going to go into it, give us a rating out of 10 for this season.
I'd say 7 out of 10, which matches the position. I'd say it's. I'd say it all depends. It not all depends. If tonight Manchester United win, which God please forbid, I think I'd class our season as 6 out of 10, and I'd remain it at 7 if Man United lose, because I think one of the key things of this season was that we had to get some form of European football if we're going to continue to attract the players that we want. That's number one. Number two, you have to take into account the injuries that we've had. I think we had 1,900 days lost due to injuries, and we just have to have that into our play, because when I see teams like Man United and Chelsea say about injuries, okay, you can talk about injuries, but your backup and your squad is still full of quality.
Yeah,
we know. We've just mentioned a few names that we've got Paul Dummett and Matt Ritchie.
Yeah,
we've got 3 goalies on the bench on occasions. We can talk about injuries. They can talk about injuries.
Yeah, fact.
But in terms of, because they're finishing in and around where we are, it's not really a valid point for them, because they've been at the top of the game for how many years? They've got all the top youth players. You've got Kobe Mainu. If that's the quality in your youth squad, and you've got other people that are probably not too far off him, then how can you, how can you say, look at our youth squad just now? That's all Kobe Mainu's. If Kobe Mainu was on that pitch against the A-League All-Stars, he would have absolutely destroyed them. I think he would have given them a good game, but our players can't even. They just lost 8-0. So, what I'm saying is that it's not a bad season because we're so early into our development. At one stage in the season, I was pretty emotional because it looked like we were fully dropping off. It was roughly around the December, January time where we were starting to drop off into the bottom half of the table. So to find us at 7th, I would say it's not a bad season. I think Eddie Howe's done a very good job. I respect the work he's done. I actually love him so much. He knows us inside out. I hope that he stays here next year. But all I would say is, if you copy and paste this season onto next, and there's less injuries next year, I think he might not be in the job. I think the owners might only accept 1 year in Europa League. Okay, fair play if we played an amazing season. It was just a few unlucky results that has made us finish in Europa League next year. Sorry, Conference League next year. And imagine we were like missed it by 1 or 2 points. Maybe he might still be in a job. But if it was like 10 points behind Europa League or like 15 points behind Champions League, and there wasn't too many injuries, Tonali was firing on all cylinders, then I don't think he'll be in the managerial job. But I think this year just had so many reasons to why we didn't fulfill our full potential. I mean, look at Tonali. When he was playing for us, in the Champions League and the Aston Villa game and the games after that, I know that we didn't have a great start to the Premier League. Even then, he was still getting used to the Premier League, but you can just see how good Tonali is. Like, he's just another level. He does similar things to Longstaff, but he's very front-headed. He's full of energy, which is similar to Longstaff, but he's got even more energy than Longstaff, that's how much energy Tonali's got. And he's going to be like a new signing for his next season. So that's all I'll say is that it's good now. It's good, okay. Yeah. It's good for where we are, but I think it won't last another year, potentially.
Yeah, and you just mentioned there that Eddie doesn't get us into the Champions League next season or Europe next season. He won't last another year. Who would you take to place? I know we shouldn't talk about it. Who would you take in place?
Yeah, I hate talking about this. I love Eddie Howe.
We love Eddie Howe. I'm editing all day long. But you said about he's not going to be in the job. Who would you take then?
I feel like for a team, they sometimes say that you need a big manager to get big things. Yeah. And if he was free, still, maybe people it's a big shot, but like people like Zinedine Zidane, Thomas Tuchel would be like a not too far off one. Mm-hmm. I know that he's got quite a reputation. Maybe Pochettino if he was still like available. I think they're the people. I mean, am I missing anyone who's free? I mean, what are you thinking?
Of Eddie in, right?
Yeah,
but if he ever's going to make a change, right? For me, I would have gone with choice. Would have gone Diego Simeone, right? For one, Diego Simeone. I'd take Inzaghi, somebody Inzaghi, right? The one I want is Michel Sanchez from Girona. He's the next best thing. Okay. The guy's only 50. And I'll tell you what he did for Girona this season is absolutely unbelievable. He got them Champions League football this season in La Liga. And I'll tell you what, the football's being played. With Dubik, fantastic. Savio, fantastic. They've got some good players at Girona, right? They were top for quite a while, but it just went out of steam. But Champions League for Girona, he's done an amazing job. He'll get a big job soon, I'm telling you. But my thing is, I think it's still Girona. And you know what? Inzaghi's going to stay in Inter Milan. And also, Simeone is going to be a lifer at Atletico Madrid. Let's be real, because the fact is, I'm editing all day long. I hope he brings us a trophy, but I think eventually, he has to get it over the line. It has to get it over the line. If he doesn't, then I'm going to be worried for Eddie Howe. I really am. But I want to win things. You want to win things. We got to win the mentality. Yeah. Some fans are just happy to go along the ride. Do you know what I mean? And just say top four, top four, top four. I'd rather win a trophy and finish sixth. And that will be an amazing season, Rikki. I'll take that. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I do. I think if we get Europa Conference, I think that's a big chance. You look at the clubs in that competition. Unless we just completely fall on our asses, we should beat probably 90 to 95% of those teams. There's a few there that could hurt us, like Olympiacos, Napoli. I can't remember the others, but they're the two that I was a bit scared of. If Victor Osimhen is still at Napoli next year, then that's going to be a tough game.
That's going to be a tough ask. It's going to be a tough ask if Osimhen there as well. You also got Lindqvist as well. You also got Anguissa, and you also got as well quite a few good, decent players as well. So listen, at the end of the day, we have to see what happens in the draw. We're not there yet. We've got to hope with Man City to win this game and United to lose the game, and then we'll be in Europa Conference as well. But at the end of the day, look, European football next season, I'd take it all day long. Listen, Rikki, I know you're a busy guy, but thank you so much for coming on. Right, and it's been absolute pleasure from Australia to come on my channel, and I really appreciate that. And first off, did you enjoy coming on my channel, mate?
Yes, it's been great. I'd definitely like to do it again when there's a bit more updates on the transfer window. Definitely when the season's going, because there's a lot more emotions going on. with the games. This one, luckily, there wasn't too much emotions invested into it in terms of the result. But yeah, it's been great, and yeah, good luck with your channel. And yeah, we'll hopefully do something again soon. And up the Magpies.
Thank you very much, dude. And where can we find you on your channel, man? And we definitely do a transfer show if you are. Get you on with Tony as well. Tony's really good on transfers as well. So,
Okay.
and if we get him on, we'll get you on as well. Do around about 12 o'clock as well. Our time, 9 p.m. your time. So tell us where you can find you on your socials, man, and then where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter. That's my main thing, really. So RIKKILMBOBAL. That's my main one.
Yeah.
And then yeah, just a group that I'm affiliated with is a group called the Toon Podcast.
Yes.
So this is a podcast group that's based in Australia. They've got some really good work. You know, they recently interviewed Chris Waugh. They've interviewed a few like Australian footballers as well. Adam P as well has been on there recently, and Lee Lawler. So yeah, some really good work going on there. We'll try and collaborate with you as well at some point as well.
Yes, please. That'd be amazing. Get me on, man.
Yeah, so
Do
yeah,
me
that's
in.
the most of them. Yeah, me myself, I'm more just being a guest on shows. I think the work you do is amazing, but especially with a new child, I'll struggle with the time. But it's more just to join in the conversations with you, and maybe do some things with the Toon Podcast.
Definitely get me on, man. I'm always there. If you want to sign, I'll come on as well. I'll share the stream as well for my people back in the UK as well. And I guess more followers along the way. So don't go away. Yeah, have a quick word with you backstage. So guys, tell us what you think. Were you happy with the team lineup against the A-Stars? I think a few fans are furious, yeah? And what do you think of Rikki's comments as well? You know what? He's a 10 out of 10 for me. And do show Rikki some love as well. Do follow him on Twitter at Rikki Borbal. The link is in the title as well. And thank you so much for watching JSTV. I'll see you back again really soon. If you like what you watch, make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, Aussie Mags, a real lads, and a real lads back here. Thank you.